It's another My Top 5 series video. Hello. A very warm welcome to Sewing Seams with Deb, and welcome back to another episode in my Top 5 series, Top 5 Sewing Tools series. Today, the episode is handy sewing tools. Now, these sewing tools aren't always used every day, or they're not always sitting beside my sewing machine, but they're very, very handy. So they're not least used, but they're a bit more seldom used. That makes sense. First one comes in a variety of sort of styles or types, and it is the snap pliers. This is a very serious one that I got for all those children clothing or the baby clothing that I've been making, or little kid stuff, and great for jackets. For those that don't know and haven't used these before, you can use these plastic snaps, and I got these from Amazon, a kit with all the different colours. You also can use metal ones, which this is another type of plier that I have. And I wanted to talk to you about the pliers because I've got a bit of an interesting fact here. The modern snap fasteners were patented by German inventor Herbert Bauer in 1885 as the Feldernopf Verschluss. Sorry about the pronunciation. A novelty fastener for men's trousers. So some attribute the invention to Bertel Sanders of Denmark. In 1886, Albert Pierre Raymond of Grenoble also obtained a patent. So it was around the mid-1800s that these types of pliers were invented and found to be very, very handy. Now, Prim are another big maker of these types of pliers. The Prim family in Germany, they've manufactured brass goods since the 16th century, and they've become synonymous with press fastener productions since buying the original German patent in 1903. So sounds like Prim might have bought that patent from that German inventor Herbert Bauer. So interesting facts. The next one I wanted to mention is the bias binding maker. Now, I've got two sizes here. I've got the pink one and the blue one, which is 2.5, and the pink one is 1.8. I think that's how it works. And these are amazing at making your own bias binding. So there's a lot of videos out there of how to do this, and so I won't go into that with you, but what I do when I make the bias binding, I join it, and there's a couple of ways to do that, and then I roll it onto a piece of cardboard, just like the bought ones, just like the shop bought ones, and then the stuff I don't use remains on that cardboard. I use old gift cards; they're good for those. Here's another one. I've got tons of this left over. This was a lovely well, it was a blouse that I made. Can't remember which blouse. Love Notions blouse that I made, and I've got all this left over. So this was the larger size. So I'm saying I'll just put my hand to these and use this bias binding when I need it, when I'm making a project that's got similar colours, or I want to make this as a feature. So these bias binding makers, I don't use them every day or anything, but they're very, very handy to have, and it really makes bias binding bias tape making such a breeze. There is a history to bias binding, of course, and its role, and I would just want to let you know that the term bias, it refers to the diagonal direction of the fabric, and when it's cut in the diagonal direction, it allows it to stretch. So then it's the ability to be able to stretch the fabric. So it's really useful for around the neck, particularly, and armholes, but you can use it on the hem of a garment as well, and lots of other different places inside other seams that are a little bit more open, or all sorts of things. So those are really, really handy to have and very, very useful. Now these are a most unsuspecting sort of sewing tool. It's glue and sticky tape. And if you haven't guessed already, these are used to put my PDF patterns together, particularly the glue. I use glue to put my patterns together, and the tape is used to put the patterns together, and it's also used to in my drafting process of patterns as well. Sometimes when I'm making a sleeve into more a flounce sleeve, I might need to put more paper underneath the original when I cut and spread. So I need tape for that as well. So glue and tape, really, really handy. It's great to have on hand, and I've always got a spare glue so I can stick my hand to it. Someone loaned me glue at a sewing day once, and it was blue. And when it rolled out off of one of these things, it rolled as blue. I loved that. I'm going to try and get that next time. The reason it was really useful is until it dried, it stayed blue. And so you could see where you'd put the glue. So it's really actually very helpful. So I'm going to bear that in mind when I go to buy some more. Now, I don't know where I'd be without this tool. It's a fabric lint remover. It's not so much for sewing and constructing a garment. It's more for, I use it more when I'm at the ironing board, and particularly when garments come back from the wash. It sounds like they've gone out to the laundry and I've paid someone to do my laundry for me. No, when they come back from that other room into here, and it's time to get them folded for the cupboard or to be ironed, particularly things like tracky dacks in the crutch part, it gets all pilling. So I turn on this and it's electric, so I don't have to worry about using up batteries. And then to empty it, it's a matter of taking that off, and then this little thing is replaceable, so it keeps it sharp. Dust that off with a little brush, empty this little housing out, and away you go. What I've really noticed is that you've got to keep this emptied, otherwise it becomes less efficient. I've also used it on jumpers. Some particular fabrics, they pill more. So under the arms, and where a handbag might go when something's rubbing, yeah, all the various things. So yeah, there's lots of incidences that I bring this out. It's more winter things because, yeah, short sleeves obviously, and it's not going to rub, is it? But and I don't wear tracky dacks in summer. So the electric lint remover, fabric on fabric, is really, really helpful. You also might be familiar with this or one of these. This is also a lint remover, a manual type. So you just you buy these refills. You just take this the outside paper off, and then rub that over when you've collected a lot of bits of fluff or whatever off of your clothing. So good for you know, suits or dark clothing like dark trousers or skirts or whatever, and it takes all that fluff off. So they're really, really useful things to have around. Very, very handy. Don't use them every day. Don't use them necessarily with sewing, but they're in the sewing room. Well, the last handy tool or tools that I'm going to mention today is all around the drafting. So, or the drawing up or copying of patterns. Now, I like to use pencil, and I use HB pencils. So I have quite a few on hand, and I usually have them recently sharpened before I start, and I continually sharpen them as I go. My hands end up with, you know, pseudo lead all over them, because it just, you can draw the line as fine as possible that way. And of course, to have on hand is 1 or 2 erasers, which I didn't grab those, but I've got 2 or 3 erasers that rubbers that I use when I'm drafting. And I always make sure I have those handy. The sharpener, and then the other part of drafting and making sure you get all the markings correct on your pattern when you're cutting out is the chalk. So this is one type of tailor's chalk. I need to buy, there's a way to sharpen these. So actually I'll just take them out to the bricks in the backyard and I'll sharpen it that way. I'll do it the old fashioned way, just put it to the side and the side. So I'll sharpen that. But yeah, the tailor's chalk is very, very handy. We've got some more modern versions of tailor's chalk. This one here, I think it's a Glover, not sure on the brand. A lot of people have got these. It's amazing. And the chalk comes out at the end. And you get refills that goes in the top there. So they're really good. I don't find that they're extremely accurate, but they're really good, and I like how they come out. The thing about using the pens that disappear with the iron, I've noticed on some fabric, and I'm sorry, I didn't take notice of which fabric it was, but I've noticed on some fabric that it does not disappear 100%. And they also say if you use those friction pens and put your markings on with those, they can come back when it's cold weather. So say you put it in the fridge or they're outside and it was really cold, or you wore the clothes in the cold weather, you might see the marks. So they can come back. But I do have lots of those as well. One moment, please. I'll get those. So they look like these. This is just this particular brand. Friction with their pilot ones. Friction with an X. They're really handy to have. And if I'm not worried that where this line will be in the garment, or I might be making a bag or something, I don't mind. Then I will still use those as marking pens. One very, very unusual handy sewing tool is soap as marking. And a very wise lady who used to be a teacher in sewing and dressmaking told me that keep your last little pieces of soap and keep them sharpened on the bricks outside. And they're really, really, this is really, really good for marking, putting your garment markings on them for like darts or little reminders of where the lines are for the pleats or things like that, because it washes out, obviously, because it's soap. So yeah, that's a really cool one. And we mostly can put our hand to soap. Not all of us use this hard soap anymore. Most of us, I think, have converted to the liquid soap, but I do occasionally have some for cleaning, you know, scrubbing socks and things like that. So yeah, it's good to have a little one of these on hand. I'm really interested in hearing. You can put a note in the comments. I'd love to hear if you've ever used soap before to put the markings on your garment in the cutting out process, or in any other part of the process, and how you have found it. And what other sort of tools have you found to be handy that you have on hand? Don't use that often, but they're very, very handy to have. So thank you for watching. I will say goodbye, and until I see you again, take good care of yourself, stay well, and happy sewing. Bye.